What if the more you chase someone, the further they pull away? And what if the exact thing you've been told to do, constant texting, endless reassurance, and trying harder, is actually the reason they're distancing themselves? When someone has an avoidant attachment style, pressure feels like a threat. The harder you push for connection, the more they instinctively create distance. But there's a powerful approach that flips this dynamic completely: the soft contact method. This isn't about manipulation, playing games, or pretending you don't care. It's about understanding human psychology and creating the emotional space that allows attraction, curiosity, and connection to naturally return. In today's video, we'll break down the soft contact method, why it works so effectively with avoidant people, and the 6 key principles that can completely change the direction of a relationship. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they sense emotional distance is believing that the solution is to increase their effort. The natural instinct is to send more messages, initiate more conversations, ask more questions, and look for more reassurance. It feels logical. After all, when you care about someone, your first reaction is often to move closer. But when dealing with someone who values a high degree of emotional independence, this approach can have the opposite effect. What feels like love and commitment on one side can feel like pressure and loss of freedom on the other. The more someone feels pushed toward a decision, a conversation, or a level of emotional intimacy they are not ready for, the stronger their desire becomes to create distance. This doesn't necessarily mean they don't care. It means they are responding to the feeling of being overwhelmed. Many people misinterpret this reaction and think, if I just explain myself better, if I just show how much I care, everything will be fixed. Unfortunately, repeated attempts to force closeness often increase resistance rather than reduce it. This is why creating space is such a powerful shift. Space is not about disappearing completely. It is not about giving someone the silent treatment or trying to punish them for pulling away. Real space comes from a place of emotional maturity. It is the ability to respect another person's need for breathing room while also respecting your own need for peace and self-respect. When you stop chasing, something important begins to happen. The constant pressure that has been surrounding the connection starts to fade. Conversations no longer feel like obligations. Interactions no longer carry the weight of expectations. The emotional environment becomes lighter, and in that lighter environment, people often feel safer approaching on their own terms. Many individuals unknowingly make the relationship the center of their entire emotional world. Every text becomes significant. Every delayed response becomes a source of anxiety. Every interaction is analyzed for hidden meaning. This level of emotional focus can create a cycle where one person is constantly pursuing, while the other is constantly retreating. The more the cycle continues, the more exhausting it becomes for both sides. Breaking that cycle requires courage. It means resisting the urge to seek immediate reassurance. It means allowing uncertainty to exist without trying to control it. It means trusting that genuine connection cannot be forced into existence through persistence alone. Creating space also gives you an opportunity to reconnect with yourself. Instead of spending every day focused on what someone else is thinking or feeling, your attention returns to your own life. You begin investing energy into your goals, your friendships, your health, and your personal growth. This shift not only improves your well-being, but it also changes the energy you bring into future interactions. People are naturally drawn to those who appear emotionally balanced and secure. When someone sees that your happiness no longer depends entirely on their attention or approval, the dynamic changes. There is less pressure, less tension, and more room for genuine curiosity. And often it is within that space, not within pursuit, that the possibility of reconnection begins to grow. One of the most overlooked truths about human connection is that people do not just remember what was said during interactions, they remember how those interactions made them feel. Over time, every relationship develops an emotional atmosphere. Some relationships become associated with comfort, understanding, and positivity, while others gradually become linked to stress, pressure, conflict, or emotional exhaustion. When emotional distance begins to appear, many people make the mistake of turning every conversation into a discussion about the relationship itself. They constantly seek answers, ask for clarification, revisit old problems, and push for emotional resolutions. While the intention may be to repair the connection, the result is often the opposite. When every interaction feels heavy, the relationship starts to feel like work rather than a source of comfort. People naturally move away from situations that consistently create emotional tension. Even if they care deeply, they may begin to associate communication with obligation instead of enjoyment. This is where the soft contact method introduces a completely different approach. Rather than becoming an emotional obligation in someone's life, the goal is to become a positive presence. Being a positive presence does not mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is perfect. It means understanding that not every interaction has to carry the weight of unresolved issues. Instead of using every opportunity to discuss concerns, doubts, or fears, focus on creating moments that feel relaxed and enjoyable. A simple conversation that brings a smile can often do more to rebuild connection than a long emotional discussion that leaves both people drained. Think about the people you naturally enjoy spending time with. Chances are they make you feel comfortable. You don't feel judged, pressured, or emotionally cornered around them. Their presence feels easy. That sense of ease creates a powerful emotional attraction because people instinctively seek experiences that improve their emotional state. The same principle applies in relationships. When someone begins to associate interactions with calmness, understanding, and positivity, their willingness to engage often increases naturally. Many people underestimate the impact of emotional energy. If every message carries disappointment, frustration, or hidden expectations, that energy becomes noticeable. Even when those feelings are not expressed directly, they can still be felt. On the other hand, when communication feels light, authentic, and pressure-free, it creates an environment where connection can grow without resistance. This doesn't mean becoming overly cheerful or forcing positivity. It simply means removing unnecessary emotional weight from interactions. Another important aspect of becoming a positive presence is learning to regulate your own emotions before engaging. When people communicate from a place of anxiety or fear, they often seek immediate relief through reassurance. This can unintentionally place emotional responsibility on the other person. However, when you develop the ability to manage your own emotions first, your conversations become more balanced and healthier. You are no longer looking for someone to fix your discomfort. You are simply sharing a moment of connection. Over time, these positive experiences begin to reshape how the relationship feels. Instead of being associated with pressure and emotional demands, your presence becomes connected to feelings of peace, comfort, and emotional safety. This shift is powerful because attraction and connection often grow strongest in environments where people feel free to be themselves. Ultimately, becoming a positive presence is about creating interactions that leave people feeling better rather than more burdened. It is about bringing calm instead of chaos, understanding instead of pressure, and warmth instead of expectation. When someone consistently feels good after interacting with you, they naturally become more open to continuing that connection, and that openness creates the foundation for genuine closeness to return. Curiosity is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology because it naturally draws attention toward what feels uncertain, interesting, or slightly out of reach. Yet many people unknowingly eliminate curiosity from their relationships by making themselves completely predictable. When emotional distance begins to appear, the common response is to increase communication, provide constant updates, and make sure the other person always knows exactly what is happening. While this behavior often comes from a place of care and sincerity, it can sometimes remove the sense of discovery that helps keep people emotionally engaged. When someone knows where you are every moment, what you're thinking every hour, and how strongly you're focused on them every day, there is very little left for them to wonder about. Human beings are naturally curious creatures. We pay attention to things that capture our imagination and invite us to learn more. When everything is constantly explained, revealed, and made available, curiosity has no reason to exist. The soft contact method recognizes this psychological principle and uses it in a healthy way. Rather than trying to keep someone's attention through constant communication, it encourages you to redirect your focus back toward your own life. This does not mean playing games, pretending to be unavailable, or intentionally trying to make someone jealous. Genuine curiosity is not created through manipulation. It develops naturally when someone sees that you have a full, meaningful life that exists beyond the relationship. One of the most attractive qualities a person can have is purpose. When someone is actively pursuing goals, developing skills, building friendships, exploring interests, and growing as an individual, they become more dynamic and engaging. They are no longer defined solely by the relationship. Instead, they become someone with experiences, ambitions, and stories that continue evolving over time. This naturally creates intrigue because people become curious about what is happening in the life of someone who is moving forward with confidence and direction. Many individuals make the mistake of putting their entire emotional focus on one person. Their daily mood depends on texts, calls, or signs of attention. Over time, this can create an imbalance where one person's world becomes increasingly centered around the relationship. Not only does this place pressure on the connection, but it also limits personal growth. The more someone abandons their own interests and passions, the less there is for others to discover about them. When you shift your attention back toward your own life, something important begins to change. You become less focused on monitoring another person's actions and more focused on creating experiences that genuinely fulfill you. You start investing in yourself again. You pursue opportunities that excite you. You reconnect with hobbies, friendships, and personal goals that may have been neglected. This process not only improves your well-being, but also changes the energy you project into the world. As this transformation occurs, curiosity often emerges naturally. People notice when someone is no longer constantly seeking validation or attention. They notice when confidence replaces anxiety and when independence replaces emotional dependence. Without trying to create mystery, you become more interesting simply because your life contains depth and momentum. The key is understanding that curiosity cannot be demanded. It cannot be forced through dramatic actions or strategic behavior. Real curiosity develops when someone realizes there is more to discover. It grows when they see that your happiness, growth, and sense of purpose continue whether they are paying attention or not. And often, it is that realization that causes someone to look closer, engage more deeply, and become interested in reconnecting. In the end, curiosity is not about making someone chase you. It is about becoming so engaged with your own growth and fulfillment that your life naturally becomes worth paying attention to. When that happens, interest no longer needs to be forced. It begins to emerge on its own, creating space for a deeper and more authentic connection to develop. Confidence is often misunderstood in relationships. Many people think confidence means being emotionally distant, acting like you do not care, or pretending that nothing affects you. In reality, true confidence is much quieter and far more powerful. It is the ability to remain emotionally steady regardless of circumstances. It comes from knowing your value without needing constant validation from someone else. When dealing with emotional distance, confidence can dramatically change the way communication is received because it removes the pressure that often pushes people away. One of the most common reactions to uncertainty is the desire for reassurance. When someone becomes less responsive, less affectionate, or emotionally unavailable, it is natural to want answers. People often begin sending longer messages, asking repeated questions, or looking for signs that everything is still okay. While these actions are understandable, they can unintentionally communicate fear, insecurity, and emotional dependence. The focus shifts away from genuine connection and becomes centered on reducing anxiety. The soft contact method encourages a different approach. Instead of communicating from a place of fear, it encourages communication from a place of self-assurance. This means expressing yourself honestly without attaching your emotional well-being to the response you receive. It means understanding that your value as a person does not rise or fall based on someone's attention, affection, or approval. When confidence is present, communication becomes simpler and more natural. There is no need to over-explain every thought or justify every feeling. Messages become clear, respectful, and direct. They are not loaded with hidden expectations or emotional pressure. The conversation is allowed to flow naturally rather than being forced toward a specific outcome. This creates a much healthier dynamic because the other person feels free to engage rather than obligated to respond in a particular way. People are highly sensitive to emotional energy, even when it is not expressed openly. A short message can feel heavy if it carries desperation, while a simple conversation can feel attractive if it carries calm confidence. The words themselves are only part of the communication. The emotional state behind those words often has an even greater impact. When someone senses that you are emotionally grounded, they are more likely to feel comfortable interacting with you because they do not feel responsible for managing your emotions. Another important aspect of confidence is patience. Insecure communication often seeks immediate results. It wants reassurance right now, answers right now, and certainty right now. Confidence, however, understands that meaningful relationships develop over time. It allows space for people to process their feelings, make their own decisions, and move at a natural pace. Instead of trying to control the timing of everything, confident individuals trust the process and remain focused on what they can control, their own actions and mindset. Confidence also changes the way you handle rejection, silence, or uncertainty. Rather than viewing these experiences as evidence of personal inadequacy, you see them as part of life. Not every relationship unfolds the way you hope, and not every connection lasts forever. A confident person understands this reality without allowing it to destroy their sense of self-worth. Their identity remains intact regardless of external outcomes. This emotional stability is especially important because it creates a sense of safety. People are generally drawn toward individuals who appear secure, balanced, and emotionally mature. They feel more comfortable around someone who is not constantly seeking reassurance or reacting impulsively to every shift in the relationship. Stability creates trust, and trust creates the foundation for deeper connection. Ultimately, communicating confidence instead of neediness is not about hiding your emotions or pretending you do not care. It is about caring without becoming dependent. It is about expressing interest without chasing validation. It is about maintaining your dignity, your self-respect, and your emotional balance, regardless of what someone else chooses to do. When communication comes from that place of strength, it becomes far more attractive, far more authentic, and far more likely to create the kind of connection that can grow naturally over time. One of the most transformative shifts a person can make during a period of emotional distance is redirecting their energy away from trying to control the relationship and toward improving themselves. This sounds simple, but for many people it is incredibly difficult. When someone they care about becomes distant, their attention naturally locks onto the relationship. They spend hours analyzing conversations, replaying past interactions, looking for hidden meanings, and wondering what they should do next. Their thoughts become consumed by the situation, and gradually, their own growth takes a back seat. The problem with this approach is that it places your happiness in someone else's hands. Every text message, every response, and every interaction begins to determine your emotional state. On good days, you feel hopeful. On bad days, you feel discouraged. Over time, this emotional dependence can become exhausting because your sense of well-being is tied to factors you cannot control. The soft contact method encourages a completely different focus. Instead of making the relationship the center of your world, it invites you to make your own growth the priority. This is not about forgetting someone or pretending they do not matter. It is about remembering that your life is bigger than any single relationship. You have goals, talents, dreams, interests, and opportunities that deserve your attention regardless of what is happening emotionally. Personal growth begins when you start investing in areas of life that strengthen your confidence and sense of purpose. This could mean improving your physical health, learning new skills, advancing your career, building stronger friendships, or exploring passions that have been neglected. Every step you take toward becoming a better version of yourself helps shift your focus away from what you are lacking and toward what you are creating. One reason this process is so powerful is that it restores a sense of control. You cannot force another person to communicate differently. You cannot make someone feel a certain way. You cannot guarantee the outcome of a relationship, but you can control how you spend your time, where you direct your energy, and how you respond to challenges. Focusing on self-improvement places your attention on things that are actually within your power to change. As personal growth becomes a daily habit, something interesting begins to happen. The relationship no longer feels like the only source of meaning in your life. Your identity expands beyond the role you play in someone else's world. You start creating achievements, experiences, and memories that belong entirely to you. This not only improves your confidence, but also reduces the fear that often drives unhealthy relationship behaviors. Many people are surprised to discover that growth changes how they see the situation itself. When they become stronger, more fulfilled, and more emotionally independent, they often gain a clearer perspective. Instead of constantly asking, "How can I make this person stay?" they begin asking, "Is this relationship truly aligned with the life I want to build?" That shift in thinking is incredibly empowering because it moves you from a position of desperation to one of self-respect. Personal growth also has a natural effect on how others perceive you. People are generally attracted to individuals who have direction, purpose, and enthusiasm for life. Someone who is actively growing tends to project confidence, positivity, and emotional stability. These qualities are appealing not because they are designed to attract attention, but because they reflect genuine inner strength. Perhaps the most important lesson is that self-improvement benefits you regardless of the outcome. If the relationship improves, you bring a stronger, healthier version of yourself into it. If the relationship does not work out, you still move forward with greater confidence, new skills, deeper self-awareness, and a richer life. In both cases, you win. That is why focusing on your own growth is such a crucial part of the soft contact method. It shifts your attention away from chasing outcomes and toward becoming the kind of person who thrives no matter what happens. And when you reach that point, you no longer depend on a relationship to complete your life. You bring a complete life into the relationship. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they sense a relationship starting to improve is moving too quickly. After weeks or even months of emotional distance, a single positive conversation can feel incredibly exciting. A message arrives unexpectedly, communication becomes more frequent, or there are signs of renewed interest. In that moment, many people become so relieved that they immediately return to old patterns. They start initiating every conversation, increasing contact dramatically, seeking reassurance, and trying to accelerate the reconnection process. Unfortunately, this often recreates the same pressure that contributed to the distance in the first place. The soft contact method teaches a different approach. Instead of rushing forward at the first sign of progress, it encourages patience. When someone begins moving toward you, allow that movement to happen naturally. Resist the urge to take control of the entire process. Healthy reconnection requires two people choosing to invest in the relationship, not one person doing all the work while the other simply responds. Many individuals become trapped in a cycle where they carry the entire emotional responsibility for the relationship. They initiate every conversation, solve every problem, and constantly push the connection forward. While this may seem like dedication, it often creates an unhealthy imbalance. Over time, one person becomes the pursuer while the other becomes accustomed to being pursued. This dynamic can weaken attraction because genuine connection thrives when effort is mutual. Allowing someone to move toward you means giving them the opportunity to contribute. If they want to reach out, let them reach out. If they want to initiate conversations, give them space to do so. If they want to rebuild trust or strengthen the connection, allow them to participate in that process. Relationships become much stronger when both people are actively investing rather than one person carrying the entire weight. Patience is essential because emotional change rarely happens overnight. People need time to process their feelings, evaluate their experiences, and determine what they truly want. When someone starts showing interest again, it does not necessarily mean everything is instantly resolved. Rebuilding connection is often a gradual process. Trying to force immediate certainty can create pressure and undermine the progress that has already been made. Another important aspect of allowing someone to move toward you is maintaining the personal growth you have achieved. Many people spend weeks focusing on themselves, rebuilding confidence, and creating a balanced life. Then, the moment attention returns, they abandon those improvements and become fully consumed by the relationship again. This can recreate old patterns and reduce the emotional stability they worked so hard to develop. Instead, continue living the life you have been building. Keep pursuing your goals, maintaining your friendships, and investing in your personal development. Let the relationship become an important part of your life, not the entire focus of it. This balance creates a healthier foundation because it prevents emotional dependence and allows both individuals to connect from a place of strength rather than need. There is also a deeper psychological reason why patience matters. People value what they actively participate in creating. When someone contributes time, energy, and effort toward rebuilding a connection, they become more emotionally invested in it. If you do all the work, they may enjoy the benefits without developing the same level of commitment. But when they are given the opportunity to move toward you, initiate contact, and make meaningful efforts, the relationship becomes something they are helping to build rather than simply receiving. Ultimately, allowing someone to move toward you is about trusting the process. It means understanding that genuine connection cannot be forced, rushed, or controlled. It requires the confidence to step back, the patience to let things develop naturally, and the wisdom to recognize that healthy relationships are built through mutual effort. When both people are choosing each other freely, without pressure or pursuit, the connection becomes stronger, more balanced, and far more likely to last. Instead of chasing the relationship forward, you create the space for it to grow on its own, and that is often where the most meaningful reconnections begin.